The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
In a quiet mountain town near Park City, Utah, the death of 39-year-old Eric Richens has become one of the most closely watched criminal cases in the state. Prosecutors allege that his wife, 35-year-old Kouri Richins, fatally poisoned him in March of 2022 by slipping a lethal dose of fentanyl into his drink at their home, then publicly presenting herself as a grieving widow. Richens was arrested in May of 2023 and has pleaded not guilty to murder, attempted murder, and multiple felony charges, including forgery. Prosecutors say she forged her husband's signature on insurance documents. Tonight, we take a closer look at this upcoming trial scheduled for next month right here on Court TV. But first, 5 years ago, Spencer and Monique Tepe were married in a small, intimate wedding inside their beautiful Columbus home in Ohio. And inside that home, they were raising a family, 2 young children, just 1 and 4 years old. Spencer worked about an hour away as a dentist. Colleagues say he loved his job and showed up every day with a big smile, full of energy and ready to serve his patients. So when Spencer didn't show up for work on December 30th, his colleagues thought something was wrong. And they were right. Inside the house, behind locked doors, those 2 young children were heard crying. Also, inside that house, the same house where Monique and Spencer were married, they were found shot and killed. No weapon was left behind, just some shell casings. Now, investigators are searching for a killer while the family tries to come to terms with what happened. Tonight, we hear from the family and the emotional toll that all of this has taken on them. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And when you talk about the Tepes, Monique and Spencer and the kids, it turns out the house they were living in was a wedding murder house. One location, this couple comes together, exchanges vows, then has this really fun, intimate reception, all inside this home you're looking at. Then they start a family, 2 kids, 1 and 4 years old, beginning their lives and starting to grow up inside that home. And then Monique and Spencer shot to death, killed inside that same house. Now, Monique and Spencer, what we're hearing about them, really a fun, loving couple and very social people as well. They've been described as sort of like the focal point of the social scene that they were involved with their friends. You know the way it works, right? You have a group of friends and there's always that one couple that kind of comes up with the ideas, hey, let's do this, let's do that, makes the plans, puts everything in motion. Well, that's who they were. And you think about that type of personality and that sort of giving and loving and connecting that they're making with the people around them. I wonder if that is at all connected to what happened to them. Being open to other people and so welcoming. Could that somehow be related to this horrific, horrific crime? Now, there are lots of questions. There's lots of questions like, what happened? How did it happen? Why did it happen? And of course, most importantly, who did it? These questions have not been answered. And in answering one may very well lead to the answers of the others. But those questions haven't been answered. The closest that we're getting to anything here is a person of interest that was caught on surveillance video, and that has been released. It's like a shadowy figure walking in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. in the alleyway behind the home, walking towards the home on the early morning, late night, however you perceive that time of day, of the murders. So this is a person of interest. This is someone they want to speak to. Could be the killer, maybe someone that would have information. But they were walking the streets in that window of time of when investigators say Monique and Spencer were murdered. Now, this has been difficult, and you know, always comes back to young couple with young children who've been orphaned. It's awful. It's awful. And it's taken a big toll on the Tepe family. And in a lot of cases like this, whether it's you have someone who's missing or someone who's been murdered, in this case, 2 people who've been murdered, there's usually that one person in the family who sort of steps forward as the spokesperson, whether they're a member of the family or a really close friend. And in this case, it's Rob Misleh, who is Spencer's brother-in-law. He was also the photographer for their wedding, the wedding video that we showed you the other night, little pieces of. He's the one that put it all together, and he's been the voice for the family. And it's been difficult for him because he's put himself out there to provide information to the public, to tell the story, and to hopefully help catch a killer. And people are pointing the finger at him. Like, why? Because he's the one person who was speaking? So this is what I want you to do. Scripps News in Cincinnati had an opportunity, Tanya O'Rourke, to sit down with him and do an interview. And, you know, we showed a little piece of it last night. I'm going to show you a bigger piece tonight. But as I watched this interview with the brother, I'm like, this guy, what he's been, like, listening to him, you can understand what this family has been through and what the daunting task that they are facing with the children of Monique and Spencer. So let's take a look at this interview and this piece put together by Tanya O'Rourke from Scripps News in Cincinnati. And I think you'll have a better idea. And I hope some of the people who have been pointing the finger at Rob Misleh watch this and say, okay, well, ask you, why are you pointing the finger at him? Like, why would you? Because he's speaking? Would you rather no one talked? Let's take a look.
How does this happen? This is such a rare thing, and 2 people that, you know, not a single person could say a bad word about them, are killed in their home.
Rob Misleh is Spencer and Monique's brother-in-law. 1 week ago, his wife got the call that changed everything.
It was her dad on the phone saying that Spencer is dead. And then finally I said, well, where's Monique? Where are the kids? And he said, well, Monique is dead too.
Misleh describes Monique and Spencer's magnetic pull, their inclusive spirit, their gift of gathering friends and family.
They were always having people over. They were just the center of a huge community of friends and family that they were the glue.
Cheers. A filmmaker, Misleh captured their 2021 wedding at their Columbus home, where they were also murdered. Their 2 children, ages 4 and 1, asleep down the hall. Misleh tells me the kids are being well taken care of, but their lives are forever changed.
We don't know how to tell a 4-year-old that they're never going to see their mom and your daddy again. It's, how do you? And how does the 4-year-old understand?
Misleh tells me he is hopeful the police will catch Spencer and Monique's killer soon.
It just seems like it was not a random act where somebody broke in and this, you know, trying to steal stuff. Like, it just seems a lot more intentional than that.
Personal, yes.
It's just unbelievably disgusting that somebody could do something so evil.
If you could say something to the person or persons who did this, what would it be?
You think that you just took 2 lives, but you took so much more than that. You took a daughter and a son, a brother and a sister, cousins, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, friends, and obviously 2 amazing parents, 2 just innocent children who will never know them again. So you just took so much more.
So when I think about what Rob is doing here, right? Like, no one has to say anything. But when someone in your family's been murdered and no one's been caught, that's the way you keep attention on the case. That's the way you keep people talking and you make people aware, and when there are clues like that video that has come out, people may see it or pay attention to it a little bit more. When everyone stays silent, then the case can go cold in the public forum very quickly, and then there's no drumbeat of pressure on law enforcement to stay on top of it. And obviously they're going to try to solve it, but they have so many cases, right? In these unsolved cases, when someone is speaking on behalf of the victims, that is helping to keep a spotlight on the case. And I think that's what Rob is doing here. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, we have former sex crimes prosecutor Stacey Honowitz, along with attorney Ali Benevento, and finally criminal defense attorney Sydney Rushing. Great to see everyone tonight. I mean, it's the world we live in, even before social media, you know, in these cases where no one's been arrested yet, and, you know, the public gets word that someone is speaking, all the attention goes on that one person. And then people, you know, if you look on social media, it's like some people have sort of convicted this brother-in-law already, which to me is insane, right? But that's the world we live in. It's good that he goes out there and speaks. Stacey, what are your thoughts tonight about what's happened to this family, the reaction, and the search for a killer tonight, how this is playing out right now?
Well, look, Vinnie, you've been covering these cases for such a long time. You know that it is important to keep these types of things in the news every night, keeping law enforcement on top of things, getting people interested. The flip side and the bad side to that is on all social media platforms, now you have lawyers and you have detectives, people that really aren't but think they are, who are trying to develop some kind of theory in this case. And so when someone comes forward and speaks, they try to hang their hat on anything and anyone. And I think that's what you're seeing now. He's the only person that has spoken out. The only lead that they have so far is, of course, that one video of the person coming forward. And so people are trying to wrap their heads around the fact that this young, beautiful couple with doesn't appear to have any enemies or any debts or anything that somebody would be after them for, to try to figure out what's going on. So I think what we're seeing now is the culmination of everyone trying to be a lawyer and trying to be a detective and trying to put the pieces together. I think today, though, there was a little bit of not a break, but there was a neighbor that came forward and said that a couple days ago, somebody was bashing on her door about 2 in the morning. And so that was something now that the police were going to investigate to see if there was a Ring camera, to maybe see who was at her door, you know, and trying to put all these pieces of a puzzle together to try to figure out what's going on. But to lay blame on somebody when there's no evidence that he was involved in any way, and he's merely wanting to keep this out in the public, though everybody does stay on top of it, I think is really awful.
Yeah. Ali, let's talk about what Stacey just mentioned. This is from Fox News Digital. 11 days, so it's 11 days before Spencer, the Ohio dentist, and his wife Monique were killed. A woman living down the street, it's been described as like a 3-minute walk, called 911 around 2:30 a.m. What is the window of time for this double murder? Is between 2 and 5. To report someone banging on her door who wouldn't leave. Fox News Digital obtained a 911 call that was placed on the 19th at a residence just down the street. The woman reported that someone was banging and knocking on her door at 2:31 a.m. Ali, this is, you know, it's kind of a pattern, right? It may or may not be connected, but my goodness, this is something to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would imagine that law enforcement probably went throughout the neighborhood to talk to people, see what they heard. 2:30 in the morning is not typically a time when most people are awake, but perhaps some people were. I would be very curious to hear what that neighbor had to say. And exactly as Stacey mentioned, the nice thing about the age of technology is that most people have Ring doorbell cameras. They have cameras outside their home. Hopefully someone can identify the man that was walking. That's not a time that most people are out for a stroll. So perhaps he's connected. It seems to be that way. But the other thing, too, is, you know, there was no sign of forced entry. And so either the person had a key or the person was let into the house, unless they just leave their doors unlocked, which would be unlikely. So lots of questions that need to be answered, but certainly some things that are very strange and pieces that don't seem to be coming together right now, but hopefully law enforcement can put them together soon.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, and this is from the Columbus Dispatch, last night we played the 911 call from a call that purportedly came from the Tepe household in April, a 911 call. We did some analysis of it, but the dispatch has concluded and has spoken with police that the call did not come from the Tepe home. It came from the area, but it was not Monique. So there was no domestic disturbance in the Tepe home, according to police, as reported by the dispatch, in April of 2025. Months before all this happened. So that was another thing people were talking about. Sydney, were you shocked as I was attacking people for presuming someone guilty? Were you shocked?
No, I am not shocked. The thing is about this, though, is I can see where someone could get that he may be a prime suspect. And the reason is because we've seen this just recently with Sarah Grace Patrick down in Georgia, right? She went to social media begging, bloggers and the news to keep an eye on her mother and stepfather's murder. And now she's charged with it. So it wouldn't be the most shocking thing for us to see right now if he ended up being the prime suspect or involved in some way. So no, I'm not shocked, but I could see where people are picking that up because he is speaking out about it. But again, like you said, you want to keep attention on these things. You don't want it to be a cold case, and especially you're right, because especially like with this case, it is so. It's traumatic. It's awful. And they're already saying that they're viewing this as a double homicide versus a murder-suicide. And just to have somebody walking in the neighborhood that was capable of doing that once, that neighborhood's probably not sleeping very well at night.
No, I can't imagine they are. Okay. Think Tank is staying with us. When we come back, we're going to pick up on what Allie was talking about, which is how did the killer get into the house? We'll take a little tour of the house, so we'll show you all the different ways that someone could gain entry. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a respected federal agent, a beautiful au pair, and a wife who never saw it coming. What began as a secret affair exploded into a twisted murder plot. Was it seduction, manipulation, or something far more sinister? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Our boss did not report for work. We haven't been able to get a hold of him for 3 hours. We are on site and we can hear.
Okay, I just the body. Our friend wasn't answering his phone. We just did a wellness check. We just came here and he appears dead. Okay. There's blood. He's laying next to his bed, off of his bed, and there's blood.
Okay, let's start here with the one big clue in the case in the murder of Spencer and Monique Tepe. It is this video of a person of interest. Now, we determined last night with Gray Hughes on the show that he's walking towards the house, okay? This is between 2 and 5 a.m. He's walking towards the house itself. So let's take a look at this from Realtor.com. We'll do a little fly around where you get an idea of the homes and the neighborhoods. And here you can see that little gray strip is that alleyway behind the homes. Now, as we get to the home in question, it's if you're looking at the block right now, second one in from the left with the grass and everything. This is the redeveloped part of this neighborhood. Let's zoom in and take a look at how this intruder could have entered the home at 2:30 in the morning, if in fact it was this intruder and not someone already in the house. So let's start with the front door. Here's the house, the front door. Oh, front door's gone already. Okay, now we're in the back. I'm lost. Can we go back to the front? Do we have the front? Okay. Now there's actually 2 sets of doors that you can access from the front. On the left side of the house, as we're looking at it, you go up those steps and you've got the regular front door. But if you look at those windows on the main level, you see the railings going horizontally across. Those are French doors. That also has a handle to it. So you could climb up there, unlatch that, and get in through those doors as well. if you accidentally left the French doors unlocked but had the front door locked. Let's take a look at some video from inside now. We go inside, you see to the right, that's the normal front door, and to the left, those are those French doors I was talking about. It's like double wide. You can see from the ground, you could gain access to that if you were climbing up. So I'm wondering if the doors are unlocked. Now, let's go around. We're at the back door. Here we go. Okay. There's the front door. Okay. Let's go to the back now. Let's go to the back. Okay. You see on the bottom there, it looks like it's almost like a basement. That's a window. That is not a door. The only door is what goes up those steps to that door. Now, the doors in this house appear to have the codes, the buttons that you push, the numbers, rather than the traditional key entry. It may also have a key entry as a backup, I'm not sure, but you definitely can use a punch code here. So any number of people sometimes can get access to a punch code. Vendors, etc., friends, neighbors, you know, people may know the code to your house from one time or another. Something else I want you to look at here is to the left is a gated fence. So to get into this back courtyard area of the home, you can get there from the front by going through the gate. But if you are trying to get there from the back side of the home, let's take a look at the garage now in the fenced-in backyard. Okay. So now the house is behind you. You're looking at the garage. That door goes into the garage, which leads to the alleyway behind the home. But there's no doors on the fence. So if you're breaking into this house coming from the alleyway, you're going to have to jump the fence or somehow break into or have the combination to the garage, go through the garage and then through that door across this patio to get to those back doors. So those are the different ways. You got 3 ways into the house, 3 doors at least, the back door, the front door, and those French doors, which are also in the front. Let's bring back in our think tank, Stacey Honowitz, Ali Benevento, and Sydney Rushing. Okay, punch codes, Ali. So there's no, you don't need a key, you just need the numbers. Your thoughts about how someone, if it's an intruder, gets into the home 2 a.m., 2:30 in the morning.
And gets into the home without anyone hearing them. So unless they know the code, they would have to be standing there trying different codes, happen to guess the right one without anyone hearing anything. I mean, you have cleaning help, you have, like you said, landscapers. There are a number of people who might have the code to your home. I just find it really hard to believe that unless
neighbor
it's someone
too.
They knew.
A trusted neighbor.
Trusted neighbor, perhaps. But why? That's the next question, Vinnie, right? Why? What would be the motive for someone to go in the middle of the night and murder these 2 people while their children were sleeping? It just, nothing about this makes any sense. But no forced entry is really interesting because unless they had that code or a key or they were invited in,
yeah,
it just looks
That's when we get back to that banging on the door, right? If it's someone like that who's a stranger, Sydney, maybe it wakes up Monique or it wakes up Spencer, and they're the kind of people who may like, hello, can I help you? What's wrong, right? They could be nice people, and then suddenly someone's inside their house and maybe they run upstairs to protect the kids. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, so with this one, it's, it's a little bit odd because, again, there's no forced entry. But with 2 little kids inside, it's not, I don't think, normal for a parent to respond in a way like, oh, someone's just banging on my door at 2:30 at night. I don't know who it is. I'm not expecting anyone. And for them to not call 911. My thing is when you show the video or the pictures of like how the houses are, they're all very close together. How did no one hear the gunshots? Gunshots are very loud. Even from a distance, you can, hear them in kind of like a firework. So that's kind of signals to me is there a silencer involved? And that, if there is, that makes this a little bit more personal because I haven't seen anything where any neighbors have said like, oh yeah, we heard the gunshots, we've heard XYZ, which I think with how close those houses are, you should definitely be able to hear something. So I think that takes a little turn there and something to potentially think about.
Stacey?
And they were also in their bed, too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're all sitting here and we're
in their bed.
What, Allie? I'm sorry. What?
Sorry, Stacey. I was saying he was found in his bed. They weren't in the doorway letting someone in the house. They were in their bedroom, correct? So they were found dead in the bedroom.
They ended up in the bedroom. The only thing I think about being back upstairs is you come downstairs, you're forced upstairs, or you're running up to save your wife or whatever's going on. But you are correct. The way it was described is that Spencer was hanging off of the bed. Go ahead, Stacey.
Yeah. Look, I think that everything we're doing right now is everything the police are doing. They're kind of, hypothetically speaking, what if, because we don't have any concrete clues. We have a coded front door. You've got to try to figure out who would have that code. I don't know if they would give the code to their house, to the landscaper, to the, maybe to a trusted neighbor, but that bears the question, what kind of issues did they have with the neighbor? If they were taken upstairs, if somebody was banging at the door, and if they are these type of people, once they opened the door to see what was going on, if they were pushed in, just like the UPS case that went on a couple weeks ago. So, and was there a silencer? Why didn't somebody? All of these things that we're picking apart now is everything that the police and law enforcement is trying to do. And until they have some kind of real solid lead to go on, I think this is what we're going to find out. So, bits and pieces. That's why, Vinnie, it's so important that you stay on this case and that it stays in the news so that stuff can come out.
When we come back, big trial getting ready to go here on Court TV. Kouri Richins back in court in Utah. The latest when we return.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
She met up with acquaintance 2 at a Maverick gas station in Draper and purchased from him 15 to 30 round green-blue pills, which she understood to be fentanyl.
1 or 2 pills might be accidental. 20 or 5 times the lethal dose is not accidental, Your Honor. That is someone who wants Eric dead.
And that is the theory the prosecutors have, is that Kouri Richins poisoned her husband. Why did he do it? Well, she's charged with the murder, but she's also charged with some other things, including forgery. And when you dive into what she's accused of forging in this case, it may connect to what the motive may be, if in fact she did it. Take a look at this. The defendant submitted a falsified insurance application on Eric Richens' life. Here's the allegation. On January 29th, the defendant applied to True Stage for an insurance policy on Eric Richens' life with a death benefit of $100,000 and the defendant named as the beneficiary. The life insurance policy became effective on February 4th, 2022, 10 days before the defendant's attempt on Eric Richens' life and 1 month before Eric Richens' death. Remember, prosecutors believe that she attempted the murder with a sandwich first before the second poisoning. The phone number for Eric Richens provided on the application contained an incorrect digit. The signature on the application that purported to be Eric Richens' signature is a forgery. On August 20th, 2023, 3 months after the defendant was arrested for the murder of Eric Richens, the defendant's mother, while discussing the defendant's finances, asked the defendant about this True Stage policy. The defendant replied, "Don't talk about that one." So, for the forgery counts, prosecutors want to bring in this handwriting expert to talk about it and as an expert to testify in the case. The defense was objecting to it. Let's take a listen to what the defense had to say about this expert.
The main concern is his conclusions or lack thereof are basically, I looked at this, I cannot say at all whether Kouri Richins signed Eric Richens' name or didn't. I can't say she did. I can't say she didn't.
Right. You skipped a step, though.
Right. Well, I'm getting
I mean, he does say with a much higher level of probability that Eric Richens didn't sign it.
Right.
He just can't say that it was with the same level of probability or any, depending on the document, that it was Kouri Richins that made the simulated forgeries.
Right, and the concern that we have is his materials that he provided and that we expect would be laid forward before the jury. Take little pictures of letters and compare them. And, you know, all of us are human and we all have eyeballs, or those of us blessed with a sight have eyeballs that work. And we are tempted to look at those things and compare them and contrast them, and it goes back into a jury room. And the bottom line is they're calling the expert to say, I cannot draw a conclusion that Kouri Richins signed these, signed his name, signed the initials. Even his finding that Eric, I believe the finding he had was a strong probability that Eric Richens did not initial the documents, not that he didn't sign the power of attorney, but that he didn't even, a strong probability he may not have initialed them, which is not even to the standard of, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not anything close to that. And the concern that I have is you're taking an expert who is going to basically say, here's all this stuff. I'm going to send this back in the jury room. Y'all can sit there and look at these initials. You can try to figure it out yourself if you think that he did it. But I'm, as an expert, saying I can't say Kouri Richins did. Under the National Institutes of Science report, under the PCAST reports, you know, the reliability of subjective handwriting analysis has been brought into serious question by the general scientific community. I provided those materials in my brief. And to have a layer of persuasion going to the jury of an expert that is relying on a science that has not been generally accepted by the national scientific community. And I specifically identified where in the NIST report and where in the PCAST report the scientific community says, look, this is just a subjective. It's no better than if me and you and the deputy all sat down and just guessed if it looked like it matched.
Mr.
Yeah, it's the old junk science argument. Heard it a lot coming from the defense. All right, Sydney, why don't you get us started, and then you gals can take over. This is, I believe, an important witness, but an important issue because it not only gets to the forgery counts, but it's really about the motive here. Is this fair to the defense?
So with this, you know, again, with the handwriting expert, it is kind of what we call junk science, because anyone can look at something and see whether the handwriting's kind of the same, kind of different. You know, the handwriting expert comes in and talks about like the swoops and the spacing and, you know, all these things, but it's not like real science. So, you know, it's really kind of unfair to the defense, especially because the expert can't say that it's her. He can rule out that it's not that it's not the victim, but he says they can't say it's her. So I think that causes some problems, right? So I think that this is a little bit more prejudicial than it is probative.
You know that Sydney is probably thrilled because the judge decided that we are not going to open the hearings to the public. And I know that Sydney does not like the motions in limine and the hearings for the public to hear before, because the jurors have the questionnaires. Remember, the jurors already have the questionnaire. So the judge said, I'm not opening this so that people can see. But with regard to a handwriting expert, he's an expert for some reason. It's not junk science. In a lot of cases, you have to have a handwriting person come in. And so you have to have a hearing to see whether or not it's generally accepted in the scientific community. And that's what it's called Daubert hearing. And that's what the judge has to make the decision on. You call the expert, you ask for his expertise, you ask about his CV, where he got his training, all the things, and how many times he's been designated as an expert. And then the defense can cross-examine him and make that decision. And of course, the prosecution wants this in because it clearly goes to the motive in this case.
The jurors,
and I'm very glad that the judge
hone in on that. Sorry, go ahead, Sydney. I was saying jurors hone in on that. Once they hear that word expert, they lean in a little closer and they listen a little more carefully. That person is supposed to have specialized knowledge in a certain area. And yes, the judge will give them instructions, but I think to the point of why the defense is fighting so hard to keep this out, the fear, of course, is that that jury is going to have a tendency to jump towards a conclusion, and calling that person an expert, allowing them to testify, even though they can't say, yes, she is the one that forged this signature, that may be just the nudge that they need to push them over into that assumption. And that's exactly what they're trying to avoid.
You know, the financial,
it's really hard
the financial, go ahead, Sydney. What did you say? I didn't hear.
No, I just gonna say it's really hard
the
to
financial
overcome.
portion.
Finish, Sydney.
You go.
Sydney's up. Sydney's up.
No, thanks. So, no, I was just going to say it's really hard to overcome those. Like Ali was saying, it's really hard to overcome just hearing the word expert. You tend to believe everything that they say. You can eat it up. So, again, the judge ruled that he cannot say that the defendant did the signature.
I have a question here, though, Sydney. Is the defense allowed to call experts?
The defense is allowed to call experts, but at the same time, no, but at the same time, it's this person. This is not a fraud case, right? This is a murder case. And like you said, like this could show motive and intent, right? But this, just the handwriting itself, I don't think is like that big of a portion of it. So I think bringing in the handwriting expert is what hurts it. So yes, the defense can bring in a handwriting expert that could say something similar, could say something different. But again, I just don't think that the expert should be allowed in at all. Just because, again, he cannot conclude that her handwriting matches this handwriting. So it makes it kind of a little bit, like I said, a little bit more prejudicial than probative, because he can't point the finger at her.
You could bring in your own expert to prejudice things up, unless you can't find one that would, say something different than the state's expert, then you've got a little bit of a problem, right? Like, maybe the expert's right.
But the thing is, the state's expert is not saying it's her.
Right.
He's just saying that it's not
eliminating
the victim, right? So
him.
That's not him.
It's a forgery.
She's on trial for aggravated murder.
All right.
And she's on trial for murder, and he didn't sign the document. So I think you put two and two together and you figure out.
Exactly. Stacey Honowitz, Ali Benevento, Sydney Rushing, great to see you. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, she was the trusted au pair until blood stained the walls of her lover's home. Now, after pleading guilty, she's set to reveal the dark secrets behind the deadly affair that ended in murder and in the trial of her former lover. Will the jury believe her? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And what do we have? A sentencing today. Who is that? That's Devin Michaels. Remember her from that wild love triangle? There she is with Jonathan Willett, the man that she murdered and severed his head off. Next to them is his son, who later became her husband. Yes. So the man she was with, she ends up leaving, marrying his son, and then killing the father and severing his head. Today was sentencing. Let's take a look at what happened.
At this point, I just feel that everything I say, it won't. The family's looking for certain things, and I cannot deliver what the family is hoping for. And they're here, and I just want them to get their, at least part of their anger out. I know no matter what I say, they're still gonna feel the same way. So just let them have their time, and that's all I can say.
We cannot bring Jonathan back. God has gained an angel in heaven. We believe he is watching over us and the girls. I ask today for justice for our family, especially the girls, because we have been sentenced for life with this tragedy. This will follow them for the rest of their life. We've created a time capsule for them in therapy where they can place notes or items that they can open in the future to remember their journey. We will never again hear his voice, his laughter, or see his expression. Jonathan doesn't have a second chance. His life has been taken, never to return to us. The girls have been left without a dad, stepfather-brother who doesn't make contact with them, and a mother who's in jail. After my marriage of 14 years, I have come to know Jonathan. Although we didn't have a close relationship with him, I miss his jokes, laughter, and him being funny. He would come around on holidays and enjoy our time spent with him. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the situation, and I am seeking the hardest penalty in this case. The killer that ended Jonathan's life needs to be put away forever.
Your Honor, I must apologize as I'm uncertain of the appropriate name to use. Tracy Reed, Tracy Tavares, Tracy Baker, Devin Michaels, Nikki Fairchild. But for clarity in this context, I will refer to her as the killer and murderer of my son, Jonathan. This horrendous murder crime has affected her two precious children, myself, my wife, and my children in the household, my wife's mother, my wife's brother and sisters and their families, my ex-wife and her boyfriend, my remaining son, my grandson who married her, his mother and family, her parents along with her sister's family, and anyone who knows us or were friends with Jonathan. We have all been given a life sentence by a woman who doesn't respect life. She has removed from our lives my son, her daughter's father, her daughter's stepbrother, and all related individuals that were just mentioned. The enduring loss of opportunities to communicate with Jonathan, witness his achievements, and provide guidance is permanent. This absence is not limited to life without parole. It is not replaceable.
You're going to be sentenced to 240 months to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections. There's going to be a consecutive 96 to 240 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for the deadly weapon enhancement, and as of today, you have 780 days credit for time served.
So a minimum of 28 years for the former adult film actress who severed a man's head. Unreal. All right, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Robert Barrows. Robert is missing from Houston, Texas since the 29th of December. If you see Robert, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Houston Police Department in Texas. That phone number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Robert to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids. There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.